Welcome to Spectrum News at 4, coming to you live from Uyo. My name is Ofonono Joseph. Let's take a look at the top stories. President Tinubu seeks fresh 1.15 trillion naira domestic loan to fund 2025 budget deficit. Senate launches probe into nationwide rail failures as derailment surge. Plus, China warns U.S. against interference in Nigeria's affairs. Stay tuned for details of these stories and more in just a moment. Many thanks for joining us on the news this afternoon. We begin the news at noon from the national scene, where President Bola Tinubu has requested the approval of the National Assembly for a fresh 1.15 trillion naira borrowing from the domestic debt market to help finance the deficit in the 2025 budget. The President's request was conveyed in a letter read on the floor of the Senate during plenary today. According to the letter, the proposed borrowing is intended to bridge the funding gap and ensure full implementation of government programs and projects under the 2025 fiscal plan. The Senate President subsequently referred the request to the Senate Committee on Local and Foreign Debt to report back within 1 week for further legislative action. In the meantime, President Bola Tinubu has written to the Senate requesting the screening and confirmation of Kingsley Ude, a senior advocate of Nigeria, SAN, from Enugu State, as a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The letter conveying the President's request was read on the floor of the Senate by Senate President Godswill Akpabio during plenary today. Following the announcement, Senator Akpabio referred the nomination to the Committee of the Whole for further consideration and subsequent screening. The development follows the resignation of former Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology, Uche Nnaji, from Tinubu's government. Away from that, the federal government and the 36 states have renewed their commitment to strengthening the nation's food systems. The two tiers of government restated their food security commitment at the 47th National Council on Agriculture and Food Security, NCAFS, in Kaduna, organized by the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, FMAFS. The 5-day policy meeting with the theme, Food Sovereignty and Food Security in an Era of Renewed Hope, brought together commissioners of agriculture, development partners, private sector players, and experts who reviewed policies and chart fresh strategies for agricultural transformation. Declaring the technical session open, the Permanent Secretary in the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, Dr. Marcus Ogumbiyi, described the Council as the engine room for shaping the future of Nigeria's agriculture through inclusive and evidence-based recommendations. To the Red Chambers now, where the Senate has resolved to establish an ad hoc committee to conduct a comprehensive investigation into the persistent derailments of the country's rail lines. The probe, which will include a public hearing, aims to uncover the root causes of recurring derailments and assess the condition of rail infrastructure, as well as the imported materials used in the sector. According to the resolution, the ad hoc committee, to be chaired by Senator Adams Oshiomhole, will also investigate loans received from China. The committee has 6 weeks to complete its findings and present a detailed report to the Senate. The Senate's decision follows a motion of urgent national importance sponsored by Senator Ede Dafinone concerning the recent derailment of the Ujuvu-Itakpe train line and calling for urgent investigation, rehabilitation, and enhanced safety measures to protect passengers and national infrastructure. In the Green Chambers, the House of Representatives experienced a rowdy session today following a motion on the alleged illegal and criminal allocation of federal government lands at the International Trade Fair Complex in Lagos. The motion, sponsored by Representative Ademorin Kuye, proposed that an investigation be carried out by an ad hoc committee. However, several members opposed the proposal, insisting that the Standing Committee on Commerce, under whose purview the motion falls, should handle it. Following a vote on the motion, the Deputy Speaker, who was presiding, ruled in favor of the initial proposal. In a separate development, the Nigerian Immigration Service, NIS, has denied the allegation of the senator representing Kogi Central, Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, that its officers withheld her passport at the airport. The immigration spokesperson, Akinshola Akinlabi, told newsmen shortly after the Kogi senator alleged an attempt to block her from traveling that the incident was part of routine immigration procedures. Speaking further, Akinlabi clarified that officers were only performing their statutory duties. The immigration spokesperson also noted that the Kogi senator met her video during the routine process but did not post an update after being cleared to fly. Now to court matters, where Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court has given the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, until November 5 to defend the alleged terrorism charges against him or waive his right to do so. Justice Omotosho said these after Kanu failed for the fourth day to enter his defense after the prosecution closed its case and the court overruled his no-case submission. He further stressed that should Kanu fail to open his defense on November 5, he would be deemed to have waived his right to do so. Recall that the court had on October 27 adjourned till November 4 for Kanu to either file his final written address or open his defense. At the day's proceedings, Kanu, who is conducting his case by himself, said he has not filed any final written address as ordered by the court, but filed a motion and a supporting affidavit. In education, the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAM, has approved the extension of the 2025 admissions deadline for public universities from Friday, October 31, 2025. The board announced this in a statement by its public communication advisor, Dr. Fabian Benjamin. He explained that the decision became necessary due to emergent and compelling circumstances affecting the timely completion of the admission process by some institutions. JAM recalled that at the 2025 policy meeting on admissions held on July 18, 2025, under the chairmanship of the Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, had approved 31st October 2025 as deadline for all public universities to conclude admissions. We move now to Africa, where UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres is called for a halt to fighting in Sudan, warning that the crisis was rapidly deteriorating after paramilitaries overran a key city. Guterres urged the warring parties to come to the negotiating table and put an end to the violence in Sudan. He also said there were continued reports of violations of international humanitarian law and human rights. Reports have emerged of executions, sexual violence, looting, attacks on aid workers, and abductions in and around El Fasher, where communications remain largely cut off. We move now to a foreign scene, where former U.S. Vice President Dick Cheney has died at the age of 84. Reports say that Cheney, who served under Republican President George W. Bush from 2001 to 2009, died from complications of pneumonia and disease on Monday night. He also served as President Gerald Ford's White House Chief of Staff in the 1970s before spending a decade in the House of Representatives. He was a key architect of the War on Terror after the 9/11 attacks and an early advocate of the invasion of Iraq in 2003. Still on the foreign scene, the Chinese government has pledged its firm support to the President Bola Tinubu administration amid threats of military action by United States President Donald Trump. Addressing a press conference today, Mao Ning, spokesperson of China's foreign ministry, said China firmly opposes any country using religion and human rights as an excuse to interfere in another country's internal affairs and threatening other countries with sanctions and force. Ning was answering a question on Trump's threat of military action in Nigeria over alleged persecution of Christians. Still to come in the news. Prince William plays volleyball in Rio on climate trip. Stay tuned for details of these and more after this time out. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Now we conclude the rest of our news stories. On our business news, Nigeria's financial markets began November 2025 on a sore note as the naira and equities weakened sharply following remarks by United States President Donald Trump, who threatened possible military action against Nigeria over alleged religious persecution. Data from the Central Bank of Nigeria showed that the naira, which had traded at a 2025 peak of 1,421.73 naira per dollar, depreciated to 1,436.34 naira per dollar on Monday, marking a 1.03% decline or 14.61 naira loss in one day. The currency also weakened at the parallel market to 1,455 naira per dollar, reflecting increased investor anxiety and foreign exchange demand pressure. The sudden depreciation followed a weekend of heightened geopolitical tension after Trump, via his Truth Social platform, labeled Nigeria a country of particular concern and directed the U.S. Department of War possible action should alleged killings of Christians persist. Still in business, the Nigeria Customs Service Apapa Area Command has achieved a historic milestone by generating a record 304 billion naira in revenue for October 2025, the highest monthly collection by any customs command in the history of the service. The figure, announced in a statement by the command's public relations officer Tunde Ayagbola, represents a remarkable leap from the 264 billion naira collected in October 2024. With this new record, Apapa Command has now brought its total revenue for the first 10 months of 2025 to 2.4 trillion naira. Area Comptroller Emmanuel Oshoba. The achievement reflects the command's growing efficiency, dedication of officers, and commitments to the Nigeria Customs Service's revenue generation and trade facilitation mandate. We move now to health news, where the World Health Organization (WHO) has disclosed that funding cuts reduced critical health services by up to 70% in low and middle income countries. The global health body revealed that the sudden and severe cuts of external funding are now affecting critical services, including maternal care, vaccination, and health emergency preparedness, among others. According to WHO in a statement on its website on Monday, more than 50 countries have reported job losses among health and care workers, along with major disruptions to health worker training programs, which contained new guidance for countries to counter the effect of funding cuts. Reacting to the new guidance, WHO Director General Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus lamented that the sudden funding cuts had led to the disruption of critical services in many countries. In the world of sports, the General Secretary of the Nigeria Football Federation, Dr. Mohammed Sanusi, has insisted that the body terminated the contracts of the handler of the FIFA-funded mini-stadium in Ugborodo, Delta State, for failing to return to the site within the stipulated time after receiving about $500,000 for the project. The contractor, Monimechel Sports, has also sued the NFF, seeking 10 billion naira in damages due to the abandoned project. The Ugborodo Stadium is the twin project of the FIFA-funded Kebbi State, and both were funded under the FIFA Forward program, a project that supports football development in each of FIFA's member associations. Each stadium is estimated to be worth about $1.2 million, and while the project in Benin Kebbi has been in use for about 2 years, the Ugborodo Stadium has been abandoned without significant progress. Still in sports, Britain's Prince William played football with Brazil's Cafu and volleyball on Copacabana Beach as he took in the charms of Rio de Janeiro before attending the COP30 climate summit this week. The future king's first visit to Brazil is centered on his annual Earthshot Prize, which awards £1 million to 5 pioneering projects tackling threats to the environment. Climate change and nature are issues the 43-year-old heir has long championed, and he is set to address global leaders this week at COP30 UN climate talks in the Amazon on behalf of his father, King Charles III. On our entertainment scene, Rita Daniels, the mother of actress Regina Daniels, has called out her estranged son-in-law, Senator Ned Nwoko, as the feud between the couple took a dramatic turn. Reports say Rita Daniels accused Nwoko of tarnishing their family's name despite their past support for him. She alleged that Regina contributed $50,000 to his election campaign, while she also invested both money and effort into his political pursuits. Also, in a recent social media post, Regina claimed that her estranged husband ordered the arrest of her siblings as a means to force her to return to him and undergo rehabilitation. And that's all we have for you at this time. Do ensure to follow us on all our social media handles and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. You have been watching Spectrum News at 4. My name is Ofonono Joseph. Do enjoy the rest of your day. Good afternoon.